Good morning, good afternoon, SonicWall partners. I'm going to give it just one more minute, let some more folks creep in. I see the numbers steadily creeping up now, and then we'll get started here. It's a magic number, Austin. Should we go 80?
80 is a good starting point. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think 895 is a good magic number.
895 is a good number for you and a hit and any sports fan, actually.
That's right.
Getting close. Three more. Richard, yes, good question. It's being recorded for us, so. There we go. We're at 80. All right, let's get rocking. Get you out of here on time. Thank you all for making time to join us today. Very excited about the session we have. We kind of primed this conversation on our last partner business update call, talking about our partnership with Cysurance and how that has developed. I think it's going to be a very impactful session today. But before we get into that, I wanted to introduce my partner in crime, Mr. Austin Fanning, to talk through just some key updates, some key dates that we have coming up, from a promotion and price increase standpoint, just so you're aware, as we have, a little over 20 days left in what is SonicWall's first quarter. So Austin, it's all you, buddy.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you hopping on. Welcome back for those of you that are returning, and welcome for those that are new here. Just going over a couple of programs, promotions that we have running currently. The first one is our 3 and free. We've talked about it on the last couple webinars, but it bears repeating. This is an amazing value that we give to anyone who's looking at upgrading or coming over from a competitive firewall. It's 3 years of services on that firewall, and you get free hardware with that. In addition, we're including 1 year of CSE with that bundle. So really cool. And that plugs right into the cyber warranty that we're going to be talking about today, because every single Gen 7 and newer firewall that we're selling comes with that cyber warranty with it. We also have our 3 and free plus HA. So not only are you getting that free primary device with those 3 years, but on those select models there, you're also going to get a free high availability device that expires at the end of the month. So time is running out. If you're looking to take advantage of that, reach out to your rep or drop us a note after this call. Happy to connect you so you can take advantage of that promotion. And lastly, on this page here, we have our net new deal registration. That is also part of our partner program, which means when you bring us a new customer, new to SonicWall, at a 5K MSRP threshold, we're giving you 50% off regardless of tier, which hopefully gives you the ammunition you need to go be competitive in those takeout situations, as well as keep out other partners. So when you bring those customers to us, we make sure that we reward you for that. You jump to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
So a couple life cycle updates. We are rapidly approaching in our kind of end of support, last data order for our Gen 6 and 6.5 firewalls. What that means for you as partners and for your customers is it's time to make a decision. There's a lot of great options, and we don't have time to go through all of them in extreme detail, but high level, you can take advantage of programs like 3 and free and go ahead and get your upgrade locked in. It's certainly an uncertain time right now from an economic standpoint, so we understand that. We're working with partners and customers to make sure that we can take advantage of promotions before things get too crazy. We also have Sonic Protect. That allows you to lock in a 3 or 5 year renewal cost. So you're essentially purchasing that renewal upfront. Your price is stable, and then you can delay that upgrade till that last data order on that final date on that device. So basically get the most out of your existing Gen 6 and 6.5 product. And then once that date comes, you'll go ahead and purchase the bare hardware to replace that Gen 6 or 6.5 unit. So Sonic Protect's another option. And for my MSPs out there, anybody looking for a monthly recurring option, the service provider program is always a great choice. You buy that hardware, that blank hardware, and then we plug you into a month-to-month, no commitment, flexible billing option for you through our service provider program. We've got all the links, and we'll be sending out the slides after the presentation if you're looking to take advantage of those, or just simply shoot us a note after the call.
Yep. And then talk to us about what's coming on May 1st to help drive this point home.
Yep. So again, end of the month is a critical date, right? Kind of in line with our product lifecycle phasing. Our Gen and 6 and 6.5 renewals will take a little bit of a jump starting May 1st. You can see that listed on the screen here. This is also showing the table of when those devices can be renewed, right? So it's right up against it in some cases here. It's the last day to order those subscriptions. If they are trying to sneak in one final renewal, you can see those ones in red there. It's literally in a matter of, a year, less than a year, they're going to be end of support. So they got to make the decision in the next, week here. But ultimately moving off that device, that decision needs to happen over the next year. So again, 3 and free, great option, Sonic Protect, or looking at moving it to a monthly service offering.
That's awesome. And from a value perspective, right, it ties in nicely to why we're here today. Things that SonicWall has been able to do to help, provide more value to you as a partner and also your customers, to help drive upgrades, right? Some additional benefit. And with that, I'd like to welcome our special guest today, Ms. Kirsten Bay, co-founder and CEO of Cysurance, and the illustrious Michael Crane, our senior vice president, I was corrected earlier today, of our managed security services group. And for those of you that had a chance to join last session, we talked about, the not only the phase one launch, but also the phase two launch of our partnership with Cysurance. And we're going to get into the details here because I know there's a lot of questions about mechanics and how it works. We're going to have some follow on. But before we get to that, right, this is the only firewall vendor. We're the first firewall vendor to be able to embed a warranty in our firewall and subscription bundles. That did not happen overnight, right? So I thought, as we were talking about, what we think would be valuable on this call, I wanted to give Kirsten and Michael an opportunity to share a little bit about the journey, how we got here, because I think it sets the stage nicely for, what we're doing and what is required of all parties, right? It's not just about technology, it's about people, it's about process, and tying that all together on this, I think, is going to be a great opportunity for us. So again, Kirsten and Michael, thank you for joining. Kirsten, maybe I'll turn it over to you. Maybe you can kind of give us a little background, how this got started, and hear from both you and Michael about, the steps along the journey that got us here.
Yes, well, it is a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for having me. It's always nice to spend time with you all. So it's an interesting journey. As many people know, we have programs throughout the security universe. But one of the things that it's really important to emphasize, particularly for me, is I've spent almost 20 years in cybersecurity, and so it's not just about an insurance product. It's really about how we wanted to drive real value for organizations who are trying to understand insurability, but also trying to understand what products actually work well for me and my environment as a consumer. And these are really key things because, as we all know, there are a lot of products out there in the security universe. And so one of the things that I thought, when I was on the other side, on the security side, was, well, how do I know how to recommend something to a particular organization when you look at these maps? And how do I know as a consumer of those products whether that's going to work well for me? And so we developed this program to embed with these solutions to help give confidence for organizations making these acquisitions that there's a there, but also, and more importantly, to help support the channel community in being able to articulate the value that they're driving to their end customers and being able to support them when they're looking at not only security acquisition, but helping to define why it matters so much when they're trying to sell, I need this budget idea. How do we help those organizations really be articulate and crisp in what value it is that's bringing to maintain security, but also a business value? And that's the thing I believe a warranty and our insurance programs do for our channel partners, is to help them be competitive in the marketplace, but also to drive additional value to their end customers.
And I think it was, important from our side that as we were trying to put this together, and it wasn't an easy journey. And it wasn't an easy journey because it was contentious or there was problems. It was just really trying to make sure that from both sides of it, that we were laying a program out that was meaningful, it had purpose behind it, And really, at the end of the day, this warranty that we wanted to provide for everybody buying a SonicWall firewall, it wasn't the elusive unicorn that, yes, we're going to tell you you've got something, but we're going to make it so impossible for you to get there. We wanted to make it attainable. We wanted to make it easy for you to actually engage the warranty if there was an event that took place. And so I think that was part of the challenge of making sure that we did the right things to secure the product with the best configuration possible, but also make the process easy so that if there was an event and they could go to Cysurance, there was more hope. And I guess hope might be the right word, but there was more hope that you were going to be able to really make action of the warranty and see some benefit from it.
Yes. Confidence, really to drive confidence. And that for us is something that, we do hear comments, well, this is a marketing thing. And to Michael's point, we spend a great deal of time really looking at, well, what do we expect this device to do? What do we expect it to actually block? How do we know that it's performing right? And so those were the things that we spend a lot of time on, not only in how do we execute and bring it across the line, but also how do we set the configurations right? And how do we help organizations have strong confidence that this is something that will bring value, and also help them stitch together the additional products to bring even more value, because we now understand in that whole stack how they fit together in a way in a much more secure delivery model.
Yeah, that's
And something
fantastic.
that creates a value differentiator. I think that was a big one.
Yes.
Right. How long from start to finish from when we first started having the talks where we were able to get it launched?
5 months,
I
think.
I felt like we were at 7, but maybe
Yeah,
it was
5.
5.
Yeah, we could add 2 months for dog years.
That's right. Yeah. So but clearly it, 5 or 7, whatever it was,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it goes to show the amount of thoughtfulness that went into this program, something that folks could actually take advantage of. I think and we'll talk about the specifics of the program. For me, another piece to this, and Michael, we were talking about this as we were preparing. It's really helping us. I know for a long time, I've been at SonicWall 7 years, and for so long it was, hey, can we maybe provide some best practices in how to configure our firewalls? And there was apprehension to do so, right? Because
Right.
when we start getting into the risk reduction game, it's challenging. And by no means, like, risk of zero is unattainable, just like perfection's unattainable, right? But how can we, with the resources we have, how can we take that number as close to zero as possible and have the economics line up? And that's something we were talking about, right? It requires participation from your vendor, from your insurance provider, from the MSP, from your customer. So maybe talk to us a little bit from your perspective, why checks and balances are so critical in a program like this, and why it's so important for everyone to kind of do their job in the process so we can take that risk number as close to zero as possible.
So I think you brought up a really good point when you started this. It's like there's been a lot of apprehension about providing a best practices. And I can say this, like my journey at SonicWall, I've only been an employee here for a year and a half. I was a SonicWall partner for 18 years prior to that acquisition of my company and now being an employee here. And there really was never any best practices that we were putting out there. So we're taking a huge step forward because we know it's the right thing to do for our community. I mean, we are the manufacturer of some great technology. So why shouldn't we enable you to do a better job with it and tell you some of the things you should turn on to help defend against a certain type of attack? And the real big answer of why, well, this is a team sport. You know, we are up against threat actors, and they are a highly sophisticated group of individuals that are acting as a huge unified team, and they are leveraging every resource that they have and as much of it as they can get to come after us. So we have to start doing the same thing. So it's a lot of what I will say most anytime somebody asks me is like, the end user has to accept their responsibility. And if the MSP is saying these are best practices, we need to turn on this GeoIP blocker, we need to turn on this gateway AV, or we need to turn on whatever it may be to defend against a particular type of attack, the end user has to accept that as the golden rule. We as the manufacturer should be able to guide the MSPs kind of to that golden rule of, again, there is no such thing as zero. We're never going to get to an attack that we can stop every single thing. But Kristen's got some great data that we're going to share later that really shows what the risk reduction looks like when you start implementing things properly. And so for me, it's team. The end customer does their responsibility, the MSP does their responsibility, we do our responsibility, and we'll probably yield a result that will see some greater success than we see typically if we just take it out of the box and do next.
Absolutely. And I think it's funny with insurance because we've been through a lot of challenges on the cyber insurance side in these last few years because of rampant attacks and not strong controls in place. And the favor we've been done to some degree is that I think we've exercised the zero demon largely. So that we really are able to talk much more about severity and managing severity and impact as opposed to, well, gosh, if you have an incident, then you failed, which is we don't have zero car crashes or zero house fires. So that's something that I think we can all be comfortable with. And that's really the key. The key is when there is an incident, to Michael's point, it's our ability to control and manage an incident and reduce severity. And so for me, and as I sit here now in my insurance chair, that's really the thing that we've been trying to demonstrate back to the insurance market as well, which is we know demonstrably when we do certain things and the end customers do certain things along in partnership with their service delivery providers, these are the things that we know meaningfully and not even partially, but substantially reduce severity immeasurably. And so that's the key piece is doing that. And so I call it that we have to stop with the totals and have a few fender benders. And now we have a market that we can actually control. But it really starts, it's that three-legged stool of product. It's the delivery model of services, and then the end customer maintaining and helping to support that whole piece by listening to their providers as well.
That's great. And you shared this scenario with us kind of as a backdrop, right? When maybe the proper controls and the partnerships weren't in place, right? To kind of set the stage. So maybe kind of talk through this as a backdrop, and I do want to get into, I think that ties in nicely to some of the risk reduction data you were able to share with us.
Yes. So this was a ransom claim, and this is something that is a very useful use case because it helps to explain a couple of things. One is how do I know how much insurance I need and how much I should plan for? But also we see this explosion effect that happens when organizations aren't properly prepared. So when we had this ransom attack occur, it came through their point of sale system, which then was fully encrypted. And so everyone knows how bad that can be. And then there was the ransom demand as well. And the issue here and we try to be very careful about having programs in place where we're able to not have to pay a ransom, but sometimes it is what it is. But the key thing here is downtime. And this is, and even when we have contingent business interruption and business interruption coverage, and that's a part of what was able to be paid for here, the downtime became so large that it began to exceed the total aggregate amount of the policy that they had in place. And so that's really what ended up, and we'll just cut to the end, which is the out-of-pocket expenses. That's what really ended up harming this organization because they were not able to recover rapidly. This is severity 101, which is not only do they have a ransom payment, and very often what we see is that the recovery dollars are the ones that are so expensive and really start to run up the bill tremendously in addition to, and so you'll see that with the indirect costs. And so this was a total incident of $2.6 million, and we had a $1.4 million out-of-pocket payment. So when we think about being able to have like managed detection response in place, making sure that endpoints were properly covered, that we can quarantine and manage the exposure of that organization, these are the things that we know can meaningfully change the outcome of this type of scenario.
No, that's a great real life example. And this is, direct from you in the research and data you have. But as we talk about, some of the critical things to keep in mind, it aligns very well with, strategic investment that SonicWall has made for our partners and customers. But maybe take us through what you've seen from your claims data and how it, ties to, limiting that risk scale a little bit.
Yes. So we've been looking at this and obviously MFA is still such a critical component. And it's not the end all be all, we know this, but it certainly slows down motion. And that's the key piece. When we start to look at, of course, MDR, and when we look at MDR in relationship to how even like insurers look at it, that this has been one of the biggest areas where we know that we've been able to control severity by gaining that level of visibility. So one of the things that we're seeing very persistently right now in the marketplace is that we see about 3 business email compromise incidents for every 1 ransom attack now in the environment. So it went from being 9% of claims in 2023 to 33% of claims in 2024. So these are things also that people need to realize is that it's sort of low-hanging fruit. I call it the cyber mugging, right? So when we think about, email security, MFA, being able to look at then the attacker who may not only end up doing a social engineering funds fraud, but we also find that they're leaking data as well. And so now we have a reportable incident related to privacy violations. So they become compounding in either way. So when we see the reduction of risk, when we have all of these, when we have ZTNA, MDR, and email security all together, we literally are getting down to a 99% risk reduction. And so it's amazingly effective. And together, when we're looking at mean time to detection and remediation, these are the things that where we're like when we looked at the incident before, that component would have meaningfully changed that outcome. So these are the things that we look at that, it's not all, I call it the cyber seatbelt, right? These aren't all the controls in the world that are difficult to implement or are amazingly costly, but they do have very significant impact in reducing risk.
Yeah, Kirsten, the one thing that you were talking about with the MFA, I mean, and that's what we're seeing today. And I think just about every security operations center around the world is reporting just about a very similar number. We're getting into that mid 80th percentile of alerts that are coming out around, and it's truly the lack of MFA enforcement.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think we're now seeing anywhere from 15 to 18 business email compromises a week. And I hate using the 100% because it's so dangerous when you say it, but we're kind of on a run rate right now that almost 100% of them had no MFA enforced, or they thought they did, and they were missing the one account because it was an old account, or the unfortunate people that used to be like me, the CEOs, Kirsten, the people like you, maybe not you, but it's the ones that are just adamant about, I'm not doing it. It's too much for me. I'm too important. I don't have time to slow down. And then they become the part of the compromise. So it is truly unfortunate just how, I hate to use the word easy, but how easy it can be to mitigate some of these risks.
Yes. And that's something that is important for particularly smaller organizations to understand. I believe that a lot of times it feels like such an intractable problem. If you read an article in the Wall Street Journal about some, the Change Healthcare event or the CDK event, these like massive, like persistent events, and it's hard to wrap one's head around how you even get control of such a risk. And really what we see is that when we see high severity incidents in claims activity, it's because, to Michael's point, there was something fairly fundamental that wasn't done. It wasn't this highly sophisticated ATP, it was password reuse, or MFA was off, or MFA was off, backups weren't run, and they didn't connect their APIs to the MDR service. And so therefore they had no visibility and they lost all of their data. And those are the things that are entirely preventable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And
just Matt, maybe jump in just a quick question that we've had in the chat here. So Richard asking how maybe the relationship between cyber insurance and cyber warranties and HIPAA and like the healthcare industry. And I know the next slide talks a little bit about one of those instances, but maybe you could describe that a little bit more.
Well, HIPAA is an interesting one because if we're all sort of being honest, we know that compliance is a very difficult, if impossible, thing to achieve. So one of the things that we look at and we work with carriers on is the roadmap. And is there a roadmap in place that is the path to compliance? And that's something that we like to emphasize with organizations who are trying to help support their customers in that process. so that when you have certain states like California where they have mandatory damages, that when we look at whether those damages are going to be smaller because it wasn't willful negligence, that's really the key piece. And so what we try to help organizations stay in compliance, one, it's the law, so that's a key component of it. But when we're looking at HIPAA or the new SEC regulations, or even some of the others that someone may be subject to, we like to say best practices, and I know that that's a very squishy statement, but really what we're trying to do is help organizations take a look at, are we doing the things that we should be doing to protect our data, particularly around privacy and encryption of data. And that's a challenging one for a lot of organizations. But remember, Office 365 has the capability to not only support encryption in motion, but also there are sensitivity rules that you can set in your program, so you don't have to go buy a whole new solution to be compliant with the regulatory requirements in whichever state you're in. And now every state has them. So these are things that we try to raise as awareness and not as a means of saying, well, too bad, we're going to deny that claim. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and it's certainly a lot of questions rolling in, and I will say, whatever we don't get to here, we'll have a chance to follow up. We can schedule some individual time. The premise and the goal of this webinar was not to be SonicWall solution commercial, but I will say, looking at this data here from my perspective as a sales professional and what we're trying to do with our partners, makes me feel good about the investments we made little over a year ago, not only with the Solutions Granted business, our Sonic Sentry managed security services, Michael's business, but also Cloud Secure Edge, right? From helping folks on their ZTNA journey. Makes me feel good, right? And so that's the idea. It's, arming our partners with tools. Hopefully, everyone on this call has the ability to take and synthesize this and put this into their sales message to help drive the message home to our mutual customers, right? And that's what we want to do alongside you. I do want to show, some real life, cyber Moneyball examples here that you shared with us, Kirsten, about, from some different verticals, right? What we're seeing is certainly there is, incremental investment required to meet some of these compliance standards, implement these different controls. But it seems like, from examples you've shared, and the goal here is that we're oftentimes seeing a reduction in insurance costs that outweighs that incremental investment while also significantly reducing the risk. So maybe you pick a couple of these or talk through these scenarios that you've dealt with.
Absolutely. And we'll see that some of these are relatively high in terms of their revenue, but we can speak broadly about this. The key thing here is total cost of ownership, 100%. I'm a big believer, and I've always been, that cyber insurance and cyber implementations are intrinsically linked to each other, because the impact of one is directly proportional to the investment in the other. And so this is the thing that we wanted to do when we created this program. One is, when that warranty solution goes into place, we've certified these solutions. We know the effectiveness of these solutions. And so we're taking that first portion of the risk. Because of that, we were able to negotiate flat rate programs for cyber insurance pricing and premiums. So the nice thing is that we see a lot of net new acceleration and acquisition of security solutions when people are going through renewals and they're like, uh-oh, I'm missing a control. I go to my managed service provider and I say, can you please fill out this application for me? And it's like, well, wait a minute, let's slow this down and actually look at how we can help you become even more secure and reduce the cost of that policy. So in many instances, we're able to help support the acquisition of new security posture, or fund, in some cases, we're able to fund the entire acquisition of that security posture with the savings that are taken from the cyber insurance policy. And so you can see that, like, for example, we had a $9,000 reduction in premium for this law firm. When we see legal, financial services, healthcare, manufacturing, those, of course, are the high criticality verticals that we see are continuing to have accelerated increases in premium. So we're in this weird cyber insurance market right now where some of the less risky organizations are seeing their premiums come down. But for those of you who service any type of medium or high risk organizations, they're seeing these increases continue. And so we were able to take a $38,000 premium down to $6,500. This was able to help fund the entire MDR purchase. So it's a great way to enter into conversations about upselling and cross-selling into new solutions. And, let's be honest, everybody hates writing premium checks. So if we can reduce that premium check and shift those dollars where people are realizing the value of those dollars and helping their organizations be much more successful, that's the key.
That's amazing. So you kind of started us down this path. Michael, I'll probably bring you in here in just a second from, talking through the specifics of how the program works, just kind of high level again, what is included. So the embedded warranty, I think, some of the requirements Austin was handling in the chat there. So for any Gen 7 or newer firewall purchased and registered after November 1st of last year is eligible for the embedded warranty of up to $100,000. As so long as you've purchased the advanced protection security suite. And what this is covering are non-volumetric DDoS attacks, unauthorized remote access, and software exploitation. Up until this point, the ability to jump to the double warranty, the 200K, it's based on MPSS, our Managed Protection Security Suite, which I'll have Michael touch on here a little bit. As of May 1st, I'm saying it publicly now, so we got to hold to it, right? MPSS is going to be an available service bundle for not only our service provider partners, but also on our traditional resale price list. It's going to be made available on May 1st. So by leveraging the Managed Protection Security Suite, the managed firewall delivered by our Sonic Sentry team, you're able to double that warranty. So Michael, real quick, can you just give us the high level on what's included with the MPSS bundle? Is new for
Sure.
a lot of folks here.
So let's just talk real quickly about what it takes to get to the $100,000. You got to buy the firewall, you got to install the firewall, you got to activate the services, and then you have to download and implement the best practices guide. The team has worked really, really hard to make this as simple and easy as possible to follow through it. Once you've done that and you stay within the parameters of that best practices guide, you're eligible for the $100,000. The $200,000 comes in when you turn this over to us to work in conjunction with you. We don't want to take anything away from you. We can co-manage this with you, but we will help you to make sure that, one, we're staying on top of your firmware. So when those vulnerabilities come out and you need the firmwares updated, need them done quickly. We're also monitoring the security configurations. We've all been there. 95% of compromises happen because of human mistake. I mean, look, every software manufacturer in the world will tell you, turn off your antivirus, turn off your EDR, turn off whatever protections you've got in place because it's interfering with my software. And you turn off 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things. You maybe don't document it very well, and then you forget, oh wait, what did I turn off? I need to go turn those back on, or I get onto the next priority and you forget. So it happens in the firewall the same way. We make sure that we find and control those changes for you. We can report back on them and come back to you and let you know you've come out of compliance. Here are the things that you've changed. We want to change them back so that you can be eligible, because this is going to diminish your security posture. And we do all of that for you. It's 24/7. It's serviced here by the North American team to take care of you. It also gives you 30 days worth of reporting. It gives you all other kinds of log retention. But this is a fully managed offering if you want it to be. It's a co-managed offering if you want it to be. It's here to just make sure that you keep that box running. It's like taking your car into the mechanic. When it comes back, it probably runs really well.
And as of February, right, we launched phase 2 of the partnership, bringing in some opportunity to access discounted flat rate cyber insurance through Cysurance. Maybe talk us through, because as you see here, everyone looking at the chart, we talked about, the 100K warranty, the 200K warranty. How do we unlock additional value from the warranty program, Michael? And then we'll turn it over to you, Kirsten, to kind of talk about the insurance program.
So obviously, we know how we get to the 100K. We now talked about the 200K. So how do we get to the 500? How do we get to the million? It's by adding more of those preventative, proactive cybersecurity services that are a mainstay. I think everybody knows what an MDR is, managed detection and response. It's really about the people, it's about the process, it's about the threat hunters that are looking for that anomalistic behavior. And we've got lots of MDR offerings. Like, it isn't just about SonicWall. For those of you that don't know, we support SentinelOne, we support CrowdStrike, we support Sophos, we support Cylance, now Arctic Wolf. I'll probably have a hard time calling that name out as time goes on. We support Windows Defender, and we'll continue to make those offering changes. So we can support that MDR for your endpoint and our threat analytics program. We talked about it and talking about the business email compromise, looking for those early indicators that something's going on in your Microsoft 365, Google Workspace environments, where we can see it and stop it because we're on it as it's happening, or it doesn't become the 3-day, 3-week, 3-month where you're finally figuring it out that something has gone on, because we're staying on top of what those early indicators of compromise look like. And that also starts to unlock that opportunity where you get the discounted flat rate cyber insurance when you get to those type of benefits. And then in the $1 million, we add another service on top of that. It's getting to what I would honestly consider, and Kirsten, I think you agree, it's the cybersecurity fundamentals for today, what's happening out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, jumping around there a little bit on you. So when we talk about, and thank you, Michael, I think that helps clear it up. And I have some resources here we'll share with the group. But as we're building this program out, obviously putting those controls in for the warranty that we're embedding, how does, what went into the development of the program, and the opportunity that folks have here, some of the high points on, the insurance programs that their customers will have access to by unlocking these different, solution sets here?
Well, one of the big keys is we work together to ensure that as we looked at would be a traditional cyber insurance application, what are the boxes that we can tick with this solution in place? And then with the different levels of solution. So when you go up to the $1 million programming, that's now even more coverage that's going into the initial remediation of the incident. And so we know that, like with adding email security as an example, we know that really rounds out the entirety of what risk management platform would need to be in place for a cyber insurance program. So our objective, and this is the key one here, which is this automatic qualification piece, the warranty really is the underpinning of where we pre-underwrite these risks, because we know what's gone into the implementation of this program. And so what that enables us to do is we have a quoting portal, and we've collapsed the whole application into what we know are already the boxes that are checked. So it's really answering the question, do you have this product versus that product? And then the additional extra questions, like an MFA question, where we want to make sure that we have fulfilled all the questions. But that's the great thing about having gone through this solution with you all, is looking at all of the ways that we can satisfy not only the requirements of an application, but also that we know that the proper security posture is in place. Since cyber insurance has gotten much more aware, people have become much more aware of it. I hear people say things like, well, I'm just going to set my whole program to match the application. I'm like, no, you can't, don't do that. Like, if you have the proper controls, the boxes should check themselves. And that's really the philosophy here. So we can do flat rate programming up to 5 million in limit. We can do limits way higher than that, but this is like, you want an application, you want to go in, get it, and check out. This is this program. There's one change here, which we've just released, is that we now have flat rate pricing up to 250 million in revenue. Wow. So if you have organizations, yes, and these are all risks. So if you have a healthcare company, you have a florist, everybody in between, it's all in the same program, which is great, because if we're trying to help organizations or help the sales process and help them understand the benefits, we can very quickly give you a spot price as well. And you can use that as a means of doing something in comparison and then getting an application done or a quote in our system, if that helps you.
That's amazing. And I know I'm going to leave this slide up just so folks can grab the address. And again, we'll send these slides out, but we've created a couple, landing spots. If you need more information, you want to, connect directly with your team at Cysurance, right? We've created a dedicated email address, and then the microsite, which if you go there, You could download the best practices configuration guide. This is where it'll direct you, if and when you need to, talk about submitting a claim. If you're, manage this on your own. Yeah, really nicely done website. Again, a place to go gather more information. But I will say, everyone on this call, here's my contact info if you didn't already have it, Austin's as well as just kind of the sales catch-all inbox. Reach out to your account manager, reach out to us if you want to continue this conversation. We can talk about your specific situation and try to, make recommendations that make sense for what you're trying to accomplish. Do some compare and contrast. I see some questions about how our program compares to others. We can do that. And we encourage it. This is a journey, right? We want to go on it with you. I'm so excited, and thank you both for what you're able to put together, right? In relatively short order. I know 5 months might sound like a long time, but this is incredible for all of us. And if you like movies, if you like sports, Moneyball is the best movie ever made. And I mean, this concept of cybersecurity Moneyball that we're playing, right? Because none of us have infinite resources, right? So we have to partner together to, combat the bad guys and everything that's coming at us. So I think you've done an excellent job giving us those tools. Austin, I know we just have a couple minutes. Are there any high level questions that we might be able to sneak in a couple minutes?
Yeah, I think there's just, and rightfully so, right? Trying to differentiate between the warranty and the actual Cysurance, right? The insurance itself. Kirsten, if you could just touch on that real quick for everyone.
Yes, great question. The warranty is intended to cover specific events, ransomware and BEC in someone's environment. And so that then also has downstream coverage for like compliance related incidents. So there is data leakage and we need to do an investigation to determine, is this a reportable event, and to help with those legal fees as well. So it's all about recovery, but it's first party, meaning it's directly impacting the end customers or the insured's environment. And so it's contained in that recovery piece. And so it also can pay for deductibles, waiting periods, and insurance policies. So what's really nice about it is it's a nice augmentation. Even if someone has a different insurance policy, it can be used with that policy. We coordinate with the other carrier to ensure that we're looking at the pieces that we can peel out and cover right away. The insurance policy itself is the broad full policy, which covers things like betterment, as an example. So someone they have bricked machines and they need to replace them. They can replace them with the current today's technology. Funds transfer fraud, social engineering, contingent business interruption, that's downstream outages, like, for those who are impacted by Change Healthcare. Those organizations would have had coverage if they had inability to bill their providers, as an example. So it's a very broad coverage policy that's intended to cover both the insured's environment as well as any impact to third parties. And usually we're able to contain that incident within the warranty program, but if it bleeds out into that next level of coverage, it's very broad coverage that's some of the best in class in terms of it's a Lloyd's carrier, so it's A-rated paper, all those good features that people like and feel confident in.
It's awesome.
Yes, it does cover IR as well. So all those recovery pieces. And we hope that's where it stays. So go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say a lot of good other conversations, but I think that was the main one there. So all the other ones, like you said, Matt, happy to address those offline. If they want to reach out, send us a note, and we'll try to. I owe some follow-ups here as well. I'll try to connect with folks after the call as well.
Yeah, yes. And can't thank everyone enough for joining. Michael, any parting thoughts for us as we go off into this scary world?
It's a team sport. Nobody gets to absolve themselves just because they bought the right technology. We have to all do our job. We all have to participate in this. And if we treat it like a team sport, I think we'll be much better off.
Great way to end it. Kirsten, thank you so much. And thank you for everything you've done for us. Michael, thank you as always, sir. And group, thanks for joining. Those that want follow-up, we'll hit you up. Definitely send us emails if you have specific questions, and we'll be back here soon with another topic. Yeah, and send notes if there's something you want to dive into deeper on a future session. We're open to that. We don't have the monopoly on all these ideas. Whatever's going to help you in your business, we want to focus on that for you. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.